A few weeks passed. The old moon became a quiet center of change. More people came, not to fight, but to learn. Scientists, teachers, and even former soldiers arrived. They came with questions and hopes. They wanted to speak with Elora, the one who stopped a hunter's ship without violence. Elora welcomed them with calm and care. She shared stories of the Zentari, their old ways, and their lost wisdom. She also made it clear she was not a queen, not a ruler. She only wanted to guide and protect. Eric stayed close, helping her with everything. He fixed old machines, cooked meals, and talked to new visitors. Every night, he and Elora would sit outside, looking at the stars, talking about small things and big dreams. One evening, a news report reached them. A council of planets had voted to open talks with Elora, not just as a symbol, but as a leader. They wanted her to speak in front of the Galactic Assembly. Bill shook his head with a smile. From a beggar in the cold to a voice in the stars. That's a journey. Nora nodded, and the galaxy is listening now. Elora stood quietly. Then she said, "If I go, I speak for those who can't. The hidden, the hurt, the forgotten." Eric touched her hand. "You'll speak for all of us." Soon, the day came. Elora prepared to leave for the Galactic Assembly. A sleek ship landed, sent by the Council. She wore a simple robe, made from old cloth found on the moon, but her presence was bright and calm. Before boarding, she turned to Eric. "Will you come with me?" she asked. Eric smiled. "Of course. Always." They left together. When they arrived, the assembly hall was full. Leaders from many worlds sat in silence as Elora stepped forward. Her words were not loud, but they were clear. "I was hunted. I was forgotten. I was called less than nothing. But a human gave me food, warmth, and kindness, not because I had power, but because I was cold and alone." She paused. "We all look different. We come from different stars. But we all feel pain. We all hope. And we all need each other." She ended her speech by saying, "I don't want to rule. I want to help. Let us build a new peace. Not from fear, but from care." The hall stayed quiet for a long time. Then, one by one, people stood and clapped. Her voice had touched something deep, a hope they had lost. After the speech, many leaders came to speak with her. Deals were made, plans were set. Elora had started something strong. Later, in a small room, she sat with Eric. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "You reminded them who we can be." Time passed. A new alliance was formed, one built on old Zentari wisdom and human heart. Elora didn't take a throne. She led from a place of peace, always walking among the people, always listening. Eric stayed by her side, not as a guard or a leader, but as a friend, someone who had seen her at her worst and still believed in her. One day, while walking through a new center built for peace talks, a child ran up to Elora. "Are you the Star Lady?" the child asked. Elora knelt down and smiled. "I'm just someone who was given a chance." The child giggled and ran off. Eric laughed softly. "You become a legend," he said. "I don't want to be a legend," she replied. "I just want to keep that promise I made. To you and to the galaxy." Eric took her hand. "You already have." As the sun set over the quiet hills of a new peace world, Elora stood with Eric, watching the light fade. She had been alone and afraid. Now, she stood strong, not because of power, but because of care. And beside her was a human who had first seen her, not as a threat, but as someone worth saving. Together, they had changed the stars. Eric came back to the maintenance room early the next morning. He was carrying a small bag with clean clothes, a towel, and more food. He wasn't sure what size she wore, but he guessed as best he could. The door slid open with a soft sound. Elora was sitting on the cot, awake but quiet. She looked up as he entered. Her hood was still up, but not as low as before. He could see part of her face now. It was clear, almost too perfect, like a carved statue. Her eyes were deep and calm. "I brought you some clothes," Eric said. "They might be a little big, but they're warm." "Thank you," Elora said, her voice soft. Eric set the bag down near her. "There's a shower in the back. It's not great, but it works." "Take your time." Elora looked at him for a moment, then nodded. She took the bag and walked slowly to the back of the room. While she was in the shower, Eric cleaned up the space a little. He put away tools and wiped down the small table. He wanted her to feel safe, even if the room wasn't much. After a while, Elora came back. Her robe was gone, and she wore the clothes he brought. She looked very different. Her skin was a pale silver color, and her hair was long and soft, almost like strands of light. Her face was calm, but her eyes still held worry. Eric looked at her for a second, surprised again. You really don't look like most people around here. Elora gave a small smile. I'm not from here. Yeah, I figured, Eric said, then sat down. Do you want to tell me where you're from? Elora hesitated. Then she sat across from him. I come from a world far beyond the outer colonies. It was hidden for a long time, but people found it. They wanted what we had. Eric listened closely. What did they want? Our blood, Elora said. Our bodies hold something old, a kind of power. They took many of us. Some of us escaped. Eric leaned back. And you're one of the ones who escaped. She nodded. I hid on ships, moved through stations. This one was the last stop. I was too weak to keep going. Eric thought about what she said. He didn't know much about alien powers or hidden empires, but he believed her. Something about the way she spoke felt real. I'm sorry that happened to you, he said. Thank you, Elora said. Most people just look away. You didn't. Eric shrugged. You looked like you needed help. They sat in silence for a while. Then Eric asked, Are you still in danger? Yes, Elora said. If they find me, they'll try to take me back. I can't go back. Then we'll make sure they don't find you, Eric said without thinking. Elora looked at him, surprised. You don't even know me. I know enough, Eric said. You're alone. You're scared. And you didn't do anything wrong. Elora didn't say anything, but her eyes softened. It was the first time she seemed less afraid. Later that day, Eric showed her how to use some of the tools in the room. She was quick to learn. Her hands moved with care, and she asked questions about how things worked. Eric was impressed. You're a fast learner, he said. We had machines on my world, Elora said. Different, but I understand how they think. Eric smiled. You might be better at this than me soon. Elora gave a quiet laugh. It was small but real. For the next few days, they worked and ate together. Elora stayed in the room while Eric went to work. He brought back supplies and updates on what was happening in the station. Things were normal for now, but he always kept an eye out. One night, while they were eating, Eric asked, Do you have any family? Elora looked down. I did. I don't know if you're still alive. I'm sorry, Eric said. I don't want to run forever, she said. But I don't know where to go. We'll figure it out, Eric said. You don't have to do it alone anymore. Elora looked at him for a long time. Then she said, Thank you. You're the first person who's treated me like I matter. You do matter, Eric said. That night, after she went to sleep, Eric sat by the door thinking. He didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let anyone take her away. He had made a choice, and he was going to stand by it. A few days passed. Elora had more color in her face now. She smiled more and talked a little easier. Eric noticed a change and was glad. But even with the small peace, something didn't feel right. He had a feeling it wouldn't last. That feeling came true when he noticed two strangers in the hallway near his maintenance room. They were dressed like travelers, but their movements were too sharp, their eyes watching everything. Eric saw one of them glance toward the service door where Elora stayed. He walked past them without stopping, but his mind raced. Back inside the room, he found Elora reading a small repair manual. We might have a problem, Eric said quietly. Elora looked up, alert. There are two people outside. They don't look like station workers. They're watching this area too closely. Elora stood slowly. They could be from the ones who chased me. Eric nodded. I think they're looking for someone. Elora walked over to the small mirror near the wash area. She looked at her reflection for a long moment. If they find me, she said, they will try to take me, and they won't ask nicely. Then we need to make sure they don't find you, Eric said. I know some hidden spots in the lower levels. We'll move tonight. That evening, Eric brought Nora to the room. She was his friend, a smart woman who worked with computers and station systems. He trusted her. Nora, Eric said, this is Elora. She needs our help. Nora looked at Elora and blinked. You're not from around here, are you? Elora gave a small smile. No, I'm not. Eric explained the situation. Nora listened and nodded slowly. I can make it harder for them to track her, she said, but we have to move fast. If they already have access to the station systems, they might know where she is. Then let's go, Eric said. Nora led them through a side passage behind the maintenance rooms. It was dark and smelled like metal and oil. They moved quickly, staying away from the main halls. Elora walked quietly, but her eyes scanned every corner. They reached an old storage room deep in the lower levels. It hadn't been used in years. Dust covered the floor, and crates were stacked high around the walls. This place is off-grid, Nora said. They shouldn't find her here. I'll block any signals, just in case. Elora sat down on a crate and took a deep breath. Thank you, she said. Both of you. Eric sat beside her. We're not done yet, but we're close. Nora pulled out a small device and started typing. Her eyes stayed on the screen as she worked. You're not human, she said after a while. No, Elora answered. What are you? Nora asked, not in a rude way, just curious. My people were called Zentari. Elora said, a long time ago we ruled many stars, but we vanished. Some wanted our power. They still do. Nora raised an eyebrow. Power? Elora held up her hand. A faint light glowed from her skin. It was soft, almost like a pulse. The machines around them hummed slightly. I don't understand all of it, Elora said, but something in us connects to old machines, ancient ones. Nora whistled low. That's why they want you. You're like a key. Elora nodded. A key or a weapon? Eric looked at her. You're not a weapon. You're a person. Elora smiled again. It was sad but warm. Suddenly, the small screen in Nora's hand flashed red. They're scanning the levels, she said. Someone's using a deep trace. Will they find this place? Eric asked. Not right away, but we can't stay too long, Nora said. We need a way out. A ship, maybe. I know someone, Eric said. Bill. He's a trader. Owns a small freighter. If we explain, he might help. Then talk to him soon, Nora said. I'll stay with Elora. Eric stood up. I'll be back fast. He left through the back exit, moving quickly but carefully. His heart was pounding. He didn't like danger, but he liked the idea of Elora being taken even less. Back in the storage room, Nora looked at Elora. You trust him? Yes, Elora said without pause. He's a good one, Nora said. Not many of those left. I'm beginning to believe that, Elora replied. They waited in silence, each thinking of what might come next. Far above them, in the heart of Helio Station, trouble was already starting to move. Eric moved fast through the lower halls of Helio Station. He didn't run, but he walked with purpose. His mind raced. He had to find Bill before anyone else did. Bill was an old friend, a trader who had seen all kinds of trouble. If anyone would help, it would be him. He found Bill near the docking bays, loading crates onto his ship. The man was strong, with a gray beard and sharp eyes. He looked up when Eric called his name. Eric? You look like you've seen a ghost. I need your help, Eric said, catching his breath. It's serious. Bill stopped working and listened as Eric explained. He told him about Elora, her strange past, and the people chasing her. Bill didn't laugh. He didn't ask for proof. He just listened. When Eric finished, Bill said, So she's not just any alien girl. No, Eric said, and she's in real danger. Bill looked around. Can she fly? No, but I can help. Bill nodded. I can hide her in my cargo hold. My next run leaves in 24 hours. You bring her by then, I'll get her off the station. Thank you, Bill. Don't thank me yet, he said. This could get messy. Eric left and returned to the hidden room. Nora and Elora were waiting. Nora had set up a few sensors to watch the area. Good news, Eric said. Bill's agreed to help. He leaves tomorrow. Elora looked relieved, but also nervous. I don't want you to get hurt. I've made it this far, Eric said. We'll all be okay. That night, they stayed low and didn't speak much. Nora kept checking her scanners. Eric sat close to Elora, both of them thinking about what would happen next. Just before dawn, a soft sound came from one of the sensors. Nora looked up quickly. Movement. For signals. Coming this way. Eric stood. We have to go now. They packed quickly. Elora moved fast, her face calm. She was ready. Eric led the way, taking a different path back toward the docking bay. But something had gone wrong. As they turned a corner, two figures appeared at the other end. They wore black gear and carried small weapons. There, one shouted. Eric grabbed Elora's hand. Run. They turned and raced through the halls. Nora dropped a smoke bomb she had built from station supplies. It filled the air with thick fog. They ran through back corridors, twisting and turning until they reached Bay 14. Bill stood near his ship. The ramp opened. Get in, he shouted. Elora ran up the ramp first. Eric followed, then Nora. As soon as they were inside, Bill hit the button. The ramp closed. We're lifting off now, Bill said. Hope you're ready. The ship's engines came to life. Outside, more figures appeared, but it was too late. The freighter lifted and pulled away from the dock. Inside, the room shook as the ship moved through the station's exit tunnel. Elora sat down, breathing hard. We made it, she whispered. Eric sat beside her. You're safe now. Bill came in. We're not in the clear yet. If they track us, we'll have to jump fast. Elora looked at him. I can help with that. Show me the ship's core. Bill frowned but led her to the engine room. She placed her hands on the side of the machine. Lights blinked. The hum of the engine changed. The ship moved faster, smoother. What did she do? Bill asked. She made it better, Eric said. Back in the main room, Nora checked her scanner. They tried to follow, but they lost the signal. She covered our tracks. Eric smiled. Good. Elora leaned against the wall. Her eyes closed for a moment. Then she opened them and looked at Eric. You didn't have to do all this, she said. I know, he replied, but I wanted to. Elora reached out and touched his hand. Thank you. They flew through space, quiet for a long time. Bill set a course for a distant colony, far from busy trade routes. It would be a safe place to hide, at least for a while. As the ship moved through the stars, Eric sat by the window. Elora sat beside him. They didn't speak much, but they didn't need to. Something had changed between them. They both felt it. Outside, the galaxy was wide and full of danger. But in that small ship, for a moment, they had peace. The ship moved through open space, heading toward the edge of known systems. Bill kept the controls steady while Eric and Elora stayed in the back room. Nora sat near the front, watching the scanners. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Eric tried to enjoy the calm, but his thoughts were full. He looked at Elora, who sat across from him, eyes closed. Her breathing was slow. She looked peaceful, but he could tell she was still afraid inside. You okay? He asked softly. She opened her eyes and nodded. Just tired. It feels strange to be safe. Eric nodded. You've been running a long time. Elora looked out the small window. I used to look at the stars and wonder what kind of life I would have. I never thought I would be hiding in a freighter. You deserve more than this, Eric said. So do you, she replied. You risked everything for me. I just did what was right. They sat in silence again, listening to the hum of the ship. Then Nora's voice came from the front. Eric, you should see this. He stood and walked up to the control room. Nora pointed at the screen. A signal went out just before we left the station, she said. Somebody recorded what happened. Eric frowned. What kind of signal? She touched a few buttons, and a video clip appeared. It showed Elora standing in the hallway. Her hand was glowing as she used her power to stop one of the attackers. The moment had been brief, but someone had seen it and shared it. The clip ended with a headline, Unknown Alien displays lost Centauri powers. Eric stared at the screen. The whole galaxy is going to know now. They already do, Nora said. I checked the networks. Her face is everywhere. Eric went back to the room. Elora looked up at him. They saw you, he said. It's out there. Everyone knows what you are now. Elora stood slowly. She didn't look scared. She looked calm. Then I can't hide anymore, she said. We can still find a safe place, Eric said. You don't have to fight them. Elora shook her head. If I keep running, they will chase me forever. But if I stand, maybe others like me will rise too. Eric didn't answer right away. He knew she was right. Still, he wanted to protect her. Let's find a place to stop first, he said. Then we can decide what to do. Bill set a course for a small moon in a quiet system. It had old buildings and working systems, but no people. It would be a good place to rest. They landed on the surface and stepped out into cool, dry air. The buildings were made of stone and steel. Dust covered everything, but it was peaceful. They set up inside a large hall with high ceilings. Elora walked through the rooms, touching the walls. Machines that had been dead for years came back to life as she passed. This place was made by my people, she said. Long ago. How do you know? Nora asked. The machines remember us, Elora replied. They still respond to our touch. For a few days they stayed there. Elora spent time walking through the halls, learning about the place. She found old records, tools, and knowledge hidden in the walls. The more she learned, the stronger she became. One night, she stood outside looking at the stars. Eric joined her. They'll come again, Elora said. Yes, Eric replied. But I'll be ready next time, she said. And I won't run. Eric looked at her. She wasn't a scared girl from the station anymore. She had changed. She had become something more. Whatever you decide, he said, I'll be with you. Elora smiled. I believe you. The next day, a signal arrived. It was not a threat. It was a message from a group of scholars and leaders across the galaxy. They had seen the video and believed Elora was part of the old royal line of the Centauri. They wanted to meet her. Elora read the message and looked at Eric. This might be the beginning of something big. Eric nodded. Are you ready? She took a deep breath. Yes, I think I am. The sky above the quiet moon stayed calm, but the galaxy had changed. The message about Elora had spread far. Now leaders, explorers, and even hidden groups wanted to know the truth. Was she really the last of the Centauri line? Could she bring back the power of her people? Inside the ancient building, Elora stood at a round table. Eric, Nora, and Bill were with her. They were going over a plan. The meeting is set, Eric said. A group of neutral envoys will arrive tomorrow. They just want to talk. Elora looked calm. Then I will speak with them. But if others come first, we must be ready. Nora nodded. I upgraded the defense grid. If anyone tries to land without a signal, we'll know. Bill added, my ship is ready to go if things get bad. But I hope they don't. That night, Eric couldn't sleep. He stepped outside and saw Elora sitting on a flat stone, looking up at the stars. Can't sleep either? He asked. She shook her head. Too many thoughts. Eric sat beside her. You're about to face the galaxy. Elora smiled a little. Yes, and not as a beggar, not as someone hiding, but as who I truly am. Eric looked at her. I'm proud of you. I wouldn't be here without you, she said. The next morning, a silver ship landed quietly in the field near the building. The doors opened, and 5 people stepped out. They wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. One of them, a woman with short black hair, stepped forward. My name is Lena. We come in peace, she said. We wish to speak with Elora of the Centauri. Elora stepped forward. I am Elora. You may speak. They all entered the hall and sat down. The meeting began. Lena spoke first. The Centauri were believed to be lost. But the signs are clear. You have their energy, their knowledge. You carry their blood. Elora nodded. I was hidden for a long time. But now I have no reason to hide. Another envoy, an older man, leaned forward. Some will want to use you. Others will fear you. But there are those who want peace. a chance to build something better. Elora said, I do not want to rule. I want to help. I want to stop the people who hunt others like me. I want to protect those who can't fight back. The envoys looked at each other. Lena nodded. Then let us work together. Let us build something new. The meeting lasted for hours. They discussed safe zones, old technology, and possible allies. By the end, Elora stood taller, her voice steady. When the envoys left, Eric walked up to her. You did great, he said. It felt right, she replied. I think this is the beginning of something good. But peace never lasted long. That evening, alarms sounded. Nora rushed into the control room. A ship is coming fast. No ID. It's not one of ours. Bill checked the radar. It's a hunter ship, probably one of the groups chasing Elora. Elora stepped into the room. Let them come. I'm not afraid anymore. Eric looked at her. What will you do? I'll stop them, she said. As the ship landed, a squad of black armored figures ran toward the building, but the ground began to glow under their feet. Elora stepped outside, her eyes bright with power. The machines in the old moon base woke up. Lights flashed. Walls shifted. A soft sound filled the air. Then the attackers stopped. Their weapons didn't work. Their suits lost power. One by one, they fell to the ground, unable to move. Elora stood in silence. The wind moved her hair. Then she spoke. You will not take me. You will not take anyone else. Go back and tell them that the Centauri stand again. The attackers were forced to leave. Their ship was disabled, and they were escorted off the moon. Later, as calm returned, Eric stood beside Elora. That was amazing, he said. The moon remembered me, she replied. It knew I was one of them. What now? He asked. Elora looked up at the stars. Now, we show the galaxy what we stand for. Not power, not fear, but peace and truth. Eric smiled. And I'll be with you every step. She reached for his hand. I know. That's why I believe we can win. A few weeks passed. The old moon became a quiet center of change. More people came, not to fight, but to learn. Scientists, teachers, and even former soldiers arrived. They came with questions and hopes. They wanted to speak with Elora, the one who stopped a hunter ship without violence. Elora welcomed them with calm and care. She shared stories of the Centauri, their old ways, and their lost wisdom. She also made it clear she was not a queen, not a ruler. She only wanted to guide and protect. Eric stayed close, helping her with everything. He fixed old machines, cooked meals, and talked to new visitors. Every night, he and Elora would sit outside, looking at the stars, talking about small things and big dreams. One evening, a news report reached them. A council of planets had voted to open talks with Elora, not just as a symbol, but as a leader. They wanted her to speak in front of the Galactic Assembly. Bill shook his head with a smile. From a beggar in the cold to a voice in the stars. That's a journey. Nora nodded, and the galaxy is listening now. Elora stood quietly. Then she said, If I go, I speak for those who can't. The hidden, the hurt, the forgotten. Eric touched her hand. You'll speak for all of us. Soon, the day came. Elora prepared to leave for the Galactic Assembly. A sleek ship landed, sent by the Council. She wore a simple robe, made from old cloth found on the moon, but her presence was bright and calm. Before boarding, she turned to Eric. Will you come with me? She asked. Eric smiled. Of course. Always. They left together. When they arrived, the assembly hall was full. Leaders from many worlds sat in silence as Elora stepped forward. Her words were not loud, but they were clear. I was hunted. I was forgotten. I was called less than nothing. But a human gave me food, warmth, and kindness, not because I had power, but because I was cold and alone. She paused. We all look different. We come from different stars, but we all feel pain. We all hope, and we all need each other. She ended her speech by saying, I don't want to rule. I want to help. Let us build a new peace, not from fear, but from care. The hall stayed quiet for a long time. Then, one by one, People stood and clapped. Her voice had touched something deep, a hope they had lost. After the speech, many leaders came to speak with her. Deals were made, plans were set. Elora had started something strong. Later, in a small room, she sat with Eric. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "You reminded them who we can be." Time passed. A new alliance was formed, one built on old Zentari wisdom and human heart. Elora didn't take a throne. She led from a place of peace, always walking among the people, always listening. Eric stayed by her side, not as a guard or a leader, but as a friend, someone who had seen her at her worst and still believed in her. One day, while walking through a new center built for peace talks, a child ran up to Elora. "Are you the Star Lady?" the child asked. Elora knelt down and smiled. "I'm just someone who was given a chance." The child giggled and ran off. Eric laughed softly. "You become a legend," he said. "I don't want to be a legend," she replied. "I just want to keep that promise I made. To you and to the galaxy." Eric took her hand. "You already have." As the sun set over the quiet hills of a new peace world, Elora stood with Eric, watching the light fade. She had been alone and afraid. Now, she stood strong, not because of power, but because of care. And beside her was a human who had first seen her, not as a threat, but as someone worth saving. Together, they had changed the stars.